tama o manu e fafaga I fuga o la au ma lau la au o le tama o tagata e fafaga I upu ma tala o upu ma le vaoga ngana e fau ai le tagata. In the language, e nofo I tono le ngana I le tele o upu ai o le tātou wale songsonga ai sa ili ma suʻi. We should be proud of the language that we have. We should be proud of the fact that it has been instructing and informing. Mai mawhai le ngana na fofo ma whaatūlanga, ma whaavasenga, ma whaafile e mū, ma whaala I au.
Tala whalama, and welcome again to another episode of Upu Whaamarosi podcast. I'm your host, Ieremia-Allan, and it is a joy and a blessing to have you join us here today. O lea so, ua mawhaatasi ai ma lea whionga I a Leota, Fitimaula, Donna, Aiono le Tagaloa Ioane, mai lea whianga o Leota vai, ma whastua uta. Leota Fitimaula Donna is an educator, she is a matai, she is a mother, guardian and community leader. She currently serves as the principal of Leo Mosa or Savavau Preparatory School and is president of the Samoan Voyaging Society. She is passionate about our vangana, our culture and our environment, and it is a joy to have you here today, Leota. So mai matara mai au. Welcome to the Upu Whaamarosi podcast.
Yeah, tasia fo atu lo so much mai tai. Tau sala o Samoa. Ia le alepa ia o nafa mo mamalu. Nangai tofeo I tu. But just to say thank you for having me on board. And kasikele o ngā whakawhadping, and I'm like, oh help. How am I going to live up to that introduction? So thank you. Thank you also for inviting me to come aboard.
You're welcome. It's very emotional having you on today. Just thinking about the oldies.
Oh yes, they go back a long way. Yeah.
I'm thinking about Whanaafi and the founders of our wonderful educational journey here in Samoa. And as an educator myself, I'm very, very thankful and honored that you said yes.
How could I not?
Yeah.
I cheered you right through the whole game.
Well, it's exciting because today we get a unique opportunity to reflect on, I guess, education, but maybe on a less formal sense, right? And a more informal sense, or perhaps informal is not the right word, perhaps education within our own Samoan frameworks. And this is something that I think a lot of us young ones really look up to you for, is that continuing on of a legacy of viewing education as holistic, but something that's always been in the Samoan DNA throughout our alanga upu and all sorts of things. So I guess maybe let's open up with a question. What is education to you?
What a curly question.
Loaded.
I think if I put it in place, education is what you are at the end of your schooling, and schooling is a lifetime journey. But let's say formal education. Who are you after you're 13? Who are you after your university degree, your first degree, your second degree, your third one, your fourth? How many more you want to do, and I'm guilty of that, but let's not go there. But education is a lifelong process, and it's something that changes different frames, different pictures, and but for the grace of God go we. If it isn't the Lord's grace, then we have to be willing to learn as well. So education is learning along the path, becoming a part of everything that you see, right to your dying day. Yeah, but education formally, I have very big shoes to fill. You've stated Aiono, Dr. Fanafi, who is my mother. And I might add, thank you for putting her on your sarong. It was a big surprise for us. You know, Mom was not a public person, very private. Yeah. But she really valued education, but she valued the ability to be able to sit, stand, walk, talk, and be confident of who you were. So first education, next, yeah. And then you become a matai, and that's a whole other education. And a mother, it's different.
It's beautiful. Leota. And I think on that term mother, one thing that I learned as a young teacher, I would observe, because you know we have to observe other teachers and learn. And one thing I would observe with the difference between a male and a female teacher is often the kids, when they were in a classroom with a certain type of female teacher, they would be more than a teacher. They would become a mum. And I wondered if you had any thoughts on that in terms of, well, first of all, you can't sleep because you're thinking about your kids. They become your own. You're wondering how they're doing at home with the circumstances you know of. You're wondering, are they going to pass the test? Are they going to get into the certain career path they're going to make? But it's almost as if their burdens become your own. And I wondered if you had any observations of that, whether you agree or disagree.
If I had a penny for every time a kid called me mom, instead of, oh, mom, oh, and everyone's laughing and they're like, okay, you know, sort of a backhanded compliment, I suppose. But yes, female teachers, very motherly. It works one way and it's frustrating the other way when they don't listen. You know, you need a sort of a father figure to sort of commandeer the rowdy crowds. As a teacher, even in the short time that I've been a teacher, there's so many experiences that you have with students, some tragic, you know. You see the levels of perhaps domestic violence, bruises on kids' arms, or the grief of losing a mother way too fast. And then, you know, 10-year-olds having to bid their parents goodbye, their mothers, and being that for them, you know, in the teacher's circle is just priceless. You know, to be there as a motherly figure, it's important. Meeting your old students, that's something else. Yeah, I had the joy of carrying one of my students' children once, and I'm not a grandmother yet, but you know, I felt like a grandmother. Yeah, so yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I guess your school is well known for its stance on mixing, or unapologetically taking a stand with centering education around manga and anganu. I wondered, another part to play is ngangana. And I wondered, you know, your thoughts on this and how you incorporate that with your students, and how you see them, I guess, grow in that.
Funny story. The school started with my daughter, the oldest one. I think Mom's eldest granddaughter, she wanted to basically ask me. It was a conversation at the dinner table. You know, I've been upper primary, you know, and then she just basically leveled me off with, are you game to go back to school, learn the language, do the pedagogy, and are you willing to do that with your daughter? And that's what we did. We started with a class of 3. And then every year we just added on another level until we finished the primary level. And I think to the great advantage of those who have followed, she poured everything into that school that she wanted to pour into the schools in Samoa when she first came back, because she was a firm believer that there was a lot in our language. And I believe it also, that that can hold sway and keep peace as it is and has done over the last 60, how many years? 60, 62, 3, 4 years. Ole mele o malmala mai tato o le ngana e seta ua. Mai mawhai le ngana na fofo ma whaatūlanga, ma whaavasenga, ma whaafile e mū, ma whaala i au, ma whaiwhainga whaasee. Ma whaiwhainga whaole ma kalapelo, but e tari tonu ale le anganga ma le loto, a tato malmalama le ngana, a tato i loa fwoi tau tutalai. I ole te le, i ole fisota inga, i le ngato tato, i no fwoi I taulanga. Ma whena nui ma, ai whapena fo I nutua, wow, I nala I sa inga nu, ma e olo whaieto whienga, ma while mu. I re tio fo I amana na o misionare taimino mai ai. While they were out on the boats, they were learning the pepeha. They were learning how to, so that they could approach us and give us the gospel in our language, and I heard that, and maybe your grandfather and your mother can verify this, that we received the gospel in 1830 and we had our fully translated to Spaia in 1835, which is like incredible.
Very fast.
And then after that, avele to Spaia manangangana emisionale Papua, Vanuatu, Tuvalu, not English, Samoan. So yes, the power of the language. She believed it fully. She insisted that the students have full immersion, learn the Samoan language for the first 3 years before they learn English. And that's how, as you said, unapologetic. But you learn your mother tongue, you'll have a good handle on every other language. And there's so much in the language.
Yes.
So much.
Absolutely. I think for my own personal journey with ngangana, it's one thing to learn and speak overseas. It's another to be in the sisi of maunga and understand what you're actually talking about while you're here. And I guess hopefully it's an encouragement to Samoans living overseas. Encourage you to come back home and learn ngangana, but Samoa here in Samoa, and as an ongoing practice, right? Yeah. Wow, there's so many things. Firstly, I'm sorry, I should have started with opening up and acknowledging Amosa. I have friends that I've met who have come through the schooling, and what I can observe is that they are people that love being Samoan.
They're not militant. We're not militant. We love it. We love it because I think you have to realize it's a journey. You have to find it yourself. I think Aiono often says, and she says, "Oh, tama o manu e fafaga I fuga o la au ma lau la au, o le tama tagata e fafaga I upu ma tala." Ia mai ele tali tonunga fo ele a Samoa. E whanau mai lole le pepe ia amatalona whaatalanoa. A o le taimi lai e pepe mea ai, o le ngangana na e ofu ai, o le ngangana fo ena e savali ai ma wawa ai e le lanolangi a. O inei a tātou ia e lua tātou ngangana i e whaonga. E whaonga le ngangana Samoa e a o ngalota miti. Ia wa o loa ma le nanu a. Ia tau ia ila le winga fo ina le malfalala. Le leila o nanu e poto Hai alele leilo nanu te valea. Ia ai lai o atu nei tamaiti le fale ele whenanui. Ia atu le fale fa Samoa. Ole ngangana foi. A tato wawa ai le tūlanga o le lewa na ele ngana Samoa. Ia te loa o upu matala o whaalongo so oi foi nisi o le elinga foi le o nutinga ipu ia sai oi muli whanua. Ia lena maua mai e mo meo nutinga ipu ele. So this is clay pottery. And they were deepening the wharf at muli whanua. And they used those dredging machines. Ne ka kol palolo. Ai sau e lunga ia mo meo nutinga ipu. So pottery came up with the dredges. And they had patterns on them which came from the Lapita colony in New Caledonia. And they were quite shocked to find it this far in the Polynesian circle. But when they carbon dated it, they found out that they were 3,000 years old before Christ. So if you add on the 2,000 years of the 3,000, that's 5,000 years of formative, instructive language that somebody held that clay pot. And they didn't instruct them in English. They instructed them in Samoan how to make the pot. So when you see a piece of archaeological diggings or artifacts like that, then you also know that it wasn't made through sign language. There was an instructive, formative word that was used. And we should be proud of the language that we have. We should be proud of the fact that it has been instructing and informing and even cursing and yelling, but whatever it is, there is something that happens to a baby when it's born, and then you start speaking to it, and then they start to hear and recognize, and even in the womb, so there is power in the word, and we know that because the Bible says that in the beginning was the word, and the word was God. So there's power in spoken languages, and I believe that our language not only holds a formative and a shaping force, but it also has a way of life. Leva whealoa ia Samoa. E ula ia, to te ula mai e ol fia whaaloa, lo ia mama. And so you sort of, but that's our norm. Ol tato norm na e to te whaaloalo. E loa whaaloalo. And I hope that my students come across as that more than anything else. They know how to be polite. It's a very polite language, but it's a very kofase language too. Fasamo, but ele va. Ma e lo e fo ila o e lo, tu malawanga e le lo e nyo ngafa e lo e la wa miu. Tota sanani.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
It's like, stop talking.
Yeah. Well, Leota, amongst other things, you're an educator, but you're also working in the preservation work of our ngawanofa. And I think, when we're speaking about these things at a regional level, there are a lot of similarities. I mean, we can look to I'm not the expert, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's another va'a similar in New Zealand, Cook Islands, and Hawaii foi, I think, all around the Pacific. I wondered if you could tell our Samoan listeners, what is the significance of the ngawanofa? Why even bother? And what have we learned from our connections with these other islands who are stewarding their own boats as well?
First thing that you gotta know is it takes a lot of money to keep her sailing. Please help us. No, just kidding. So, voyaging. Oka. Ta'aloa le folau mamalanga Samoa. Yeah. It's interesting because I did an interview with someone from New Zealand who came across to find the origins of the waka and the va'a. And he said to me, how come you guys don't have any boats? When you talk about New Zealand, you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, you start with your name. Is it your mountain and your river? Or is it your boat first?
I think it's the boat first.
Boat first, and then your mountain, your river, and your marae, I think. I'm so sorry if I get it wrong. But we don't say, this is my boat. And they said, how come you don't say, this is my boat? I said, because we all set you out from here. We don't have boats. We don't have boats per se, which say, my waka is this, I came from this, boat which landed here and there. We don't have that in Samoa, which is quite interesting. Yeah. As you know, the story of the Hokulea, which turns 50 this year, 50 years of celebration, 1978, and Aiono Thompson and the rest also took a very big leap of faith in 1978, I think it was, and they, 75, they sailed to Hawaii using navigation and the stars. And of course, Moana 1 and 2 have just, captured our imagination. But in 2009, 7 islands were gifted boats like Ngawalofa. So Ngawalofa is a sister ship. And there's a boat in the Cook Islands. There's 2 in New Zealand. It used to belong to American Samoa. There's 1 in Fiji, and there's also the one in the Vanuatu Islands. And all of these boats were birthed out of a vision to rebirth navigation, sailing by the stars. A lot of the voyaging in Samoa seems to be hidden. It's lost. There are other countries where they actually talk about the boats that beached or arrived in their lands, and so they have an identification with the boats. But for us, Ieremia tato tala po ni upu tala tu o va'a. Eleni va'a whapitoa mea le pata, eleni va'a whapitoa mai I le tu masanga, ia poa ana. Ai va'a mo meo tala whangono. O le wawe ano o tangata mai desi mea. O lono winga la sa ele au wala sa whioa ai. Ia au te tari tonua o va'a sa whaonga, o lesi fwe au wala I loa ai, po lesi langi soi fua lai to tonu le ngangana. O le tūlanga le o whasinonga. Pēlan mena I don't know about the compass. So for us, when we stand in Samoa, when we say To'elau is north. And Tokelau is also in the north of Samoa. And you say Tonga, and Tonga is south. Po south sea. Ia o inai tu ai Tonga. E lalo le tu lea. Ia o nganga e nganga ifo. Ia o tato ingoa nganga ifo is for Sifo, which is west. And nganga e is Sasai. And so, si Sifo le e fiti. So Samoan say e fiti le la. Fiti le la, e oso le la, e fiti fo ele la pe angoto. O le tele yo uku tono le ngangana. E whaamatala e mo meo whamalanga inga. E whaamatala e whaunga o va'a. E whaamatala e le tu whaata singa o va'a. E peila le upula le le sa su e fo ele sa tato tala noai. O le whaingo le fola le o le va'a. Ma o le taimini o le wha tūlanga ma wha umalenga luenga ni Ngawalofa. Wa tele ale lo whaino si o mato society. Ma o le tino I tupe to e wha lelei ele va'a. Ngā mene o wa, ia e taungata, e le whaingo whiena, na tausi ma whaalelei le wa. A le tautonunga ia whaafolau. A alu si whaolaunga, a toi fo e mailoa, e awe lunga le wa, e toi whaalelei. Toi whau, toi sau afa, toi sai, toi awe ese mea u whaale tonu. Ia pera le upula le sa moa fo esu enga. O le upule o le wheta toi. O le wheta toi la lea e whaamatala e mo meo le tu whaata singa o le fola le wa. What we call in English the deck. So for us, a tu whaata sia mo meo o fola le wa. Ai le whetaui. O lono inga la ua le wheta toi. A le awala fo isa whaia, isa pe sa sui. Sui whaata si like tongue and groove. It was quite interesting how they wove it together to keep it tight on the deck of the boat. So, yeah, era le upu po le upu si I mai nā, whai mai. A tu watu e le whetātoi, tu e teu I whetaui, o le mea ta mailea. So it's a very wordy way of saying, koe whai. Koe whai ngai les kaui. But you know, it sounds much better when you're doing it sort of nice and flowery and you're like, wow. But you can just say, koe whai ngai les kaui. So, again, in the language, e nofo I tono le ngangana, I le tele o upu, Ai o le tātou wale songa e sa ili ma sue. And I think ole mena sa awina mai Aiono. Na awina mai Aiono i le nau ta inga e sa ili. E lana upu masani whaonga e foe whaani ani. E foe lea upu. Awa e telen tatu whaonga upu. O le taungo fie i o le lafonga solo upu. E ele me o le talitonunga. Ia o upu e pea na watu taimi o whano. O upu ma le vaonga ngana e whau ai le tangata. Yeah, ai tama si me se pepe lungo vai tele si and then you just go goo goo gaga gaga goo goo. Do you speak to the child? And I miss a tangata Samoa. You never hear baby talk. When a Samoan holds a baby, they say ata or tangi. Mai ke so ye ke au leanga pero ka ba. Ai lai fa ye tala. O lai fa fanga I upu matala. A upu fo ina fanga ye a mata I upu faingo fia e uma e ya faton. Faton. Faili upu tu lo. Ya wai fo itato e ke refe mai o lo suafa o ai ke mai o lo ingoa. O ai lo suafa. E ele me o le fa avi I avelista ngata e fa lalo taita. O mea umana e a fua melenga ngana. Ia upu fo matala o la au. Ia o le vao matua, se o manga. O lai ta tonu fo ilenga ngana. Ta tonu fo ilenga ngana. O le fola le vaala e fai temine. Ia le finele. Ia le tate iloa o le la auna e matua e su e ngata e sa mo temine. Ai o le la au. Ia la iloa e sa mo la au ana ngata. La iloa e sa mo la au e tu le vai I o nā tili maa la ia pese o mea. Nā fu elo e sa moala au e ope pe tu le vai. Elo uma o mea uma ia sa whaafai lele ma tato no nofo ai ma tato mal malama si o manga. Ia e pese I o le o tato popoto. Ai ua tia I uma ia mea sa awina mai. E ala le ngangana. E ala I tato whasina mau. E ala le whaasinonga o lo tangata, ma le uma tangata, ma mea uma I te tono tangata le ta o tātou, le mauli, ma le ola, ma le aitu. Ia le la o whaonga tātou le aitu e pesi me le anga. Ia te tonunga sa mua le aitu, it's your id. It's your identity. O le vaenga nā lo tangata e te ula vale ai, ke fia maali ai, le whai ai whale aitu.
Interesting.
But again, yeah, ole matua te lea, ole sao le ngangana, I le tangata, yeah. Yesi ukule na au mai, ole
Leota. This upu mauli, in terms of Austronesian languages, it can be translated to mean, I think, Maori or Maori ora. Can you please explain olale wingo le upu mauli? For those of us, what's the rhetoric behind it?
What a big love question. Mai whaalonga wha mai sesi o sēngira o Maori. O sēngira ka Maori. Te sea whaalonga I ke mingi, but you hear it with our elders. Ka sēngira ka Maori. So equivalence le ngā I le tātou mama anga wha le anganga. O le anganga le tangata. O le Maori o le anganga le tangata. O le aitu o le id. Have you all watched The Mask? Jim Carrey? He puts on the mask. That's your id. That's your ulavale, I'm free to do whatever I like. And of course, o le id ka I lalo I le tātou societal norms and values. O le mauli, o le similar to your soul. Ma le ola, life. Interesting that we had a tripartite division. Ai le imala malama tātou I le fionga pa o le atua ma le whakasinganga. E leo se me le anga. O le me e taunu wawa ai fo I le tā ua ma le loloto le me no o ia le mama anga. Mo ia le ato atua. Le wafa ato atua I le tala le lei. Ai e tau te le popole ai. Awa estanga te mai. Ai mea toi so isu e nā mea o mea o aso la. Ina ia e malama I le mea sa e ai. ina whaina e anga e luma mea lo e taimi nei. Elese me e tala ai e ho. Ni o lau ia ngā mau e whakareo. Ni. Ale maulina, e le lai te whaafonga e whaonga e tua te re mauri ora. So you see, o le tu e maleola. O le mauli ola.
Which further speaks to these interconnections, right? Obviously our ngangana reflects that.
Yes.
I remember a friend of mine at university spoke about the word Fakafetai in Te Reo Maori, and the resurgence of this word. And I was like, wow, in our language, it means thank you, right? And so all of a sudden, all these thousands of years of distance, it kind of pushes through these obstacles or walls that we put ourselves behind in terms of cultures and separation. You know, as Pacific people, we are stronger together, and our linguistic similarities, our cultural similarities speak to that, right? I guess I'm intrigued to hear about, you know, within a Samoan context, knowing who you are as a Samoan, and then going out to the Pacific to serve others. I guess maybe I'm asking, has there been a time where you have noticed these similarities and it sparked a thought or sparked an idea, you know, surrounded by these things?
That is a very interesting point you brought up. I was educated in Samoa, o Langi, o Aongangi, o Alulu New Zealand. I was at Massey University, did my degree there, came home, served at the hospital, did other things. But the story is actually current right now, because when I turned 21, New Zealand kusi melokinga ole pepa makai bo faamatai so kakala aku le kusi ia ole meole swafa matai il matoainga ia Fitimaula la le I remember a sense of dread, you know, kofi ola e bo makai ke fo ingi Samoa o alu me faamatai faile nu me na first star that rose over my journey and passage as a voyager. You know, one of those guiding points, because that's with voyaging, you look at the horizon. As the sun sets, the stars that rise are the ones that point your direction, and that's your compass. And as that star rises, you look at the next one and the next one. So you have these guiding points and lights. Currently, 2 years ago, I took up a degree at USP, a Bachelor of Agricultural Science, and part of that was doing a paper called Our Pacific World. O inala, no o iloa le matua I ngao I o la wa o ngale sa fai New Zealand. The education I did in New Zealand was very white. And I say this with a lot of grace and thanks to those who sponsored me and put me through the education. But that paper gave me a scope and an understanding of the Pacific that I didn't have. And you know, we look down on USP, and this isn't a plug for USP, but it's a plug for being Pacific. It's a plug for being a Pacific person and living in a Pacific Ocean with islands dotted around, you know, because I was then made aware of the plight of the Solomon Islands and the sadness in Papua New Guinea and the rape of the land, and just all of a sudden I realized, oh my goodness, I am part of this big blue continent of people who have the same backyard, not even backyard, front yard of an ocean, with things that we're all fighting for, and we seem to, like you said, be fighting separately. You know, we're all fighting in our own backyards when we should be united and fight together for our identity. And I'm sure you know of Epeli Haofa and all the beautiful sayings that he's come up with. But I finished that paper and I personally thanked my lecturers. I said, thank you for opening up another avenue. It's not just me, I'm Samoan, I'm proud to be Samoan. I'm proud to be part of this Pacific community with the issues we face and the struggles we face and the cold shoulders we face. It's just so important for our people to have a Pacific awareness.
Yeah.
And perhaps the platform of Miss Pacific is something that should garner that more, that greater awareness of who we are. I love the fact you guys walk barefoot and you do sarongs and Okas Maria, to be a Pacific identity that way, and just the beauty of the Solomon Islands, Papua New Guinea, Fiji.
Yeah.
And the issues, there's so many issues. There's so many issues.
I think one thing that I was told, I will never forget it. I was doing a Pacific Studies paper at Victoria University, and I remember our lecturer saying, "It is a privilege to have access to this information."
You're right.
It is a privilege to have the funds to access this class. And there are hundreds of others back home that can't afford to be in this classroom. And it is your duty to now share that information.
Yes.
And so I guess maybe it's an encouragement, right? As we learn, let's not be gatekeepers, right? Or as we learn and to be, have a sense of responsibility for our region, pray for our younger sister or brother, for that to be imparted to them as well. Because I tell you, Leota, when I caught that from my mentor, it was like my whole world opened up.
Yeah.
And suddenly I understood my place within our ocean. That to be Samoan within the context is to express that sense of identity through looking after our neighbor. I wonder, is there any encouragement that you have for people that are wanting to learn more and wanting to participate more in these regional initiatives and stuff like that, but maybe they're scared or they're fearful of the unknown, that kind of thing?
Well, you see, I'm guilty of being someone who thought that my colonial education was superior until I actually did this paper, So I think what's really important is to educate where we are. For me, I have such a powerful platform because I can educate young people to realize, that their place in the Pacific, their place in Samoa, their place in... It's not just about getting good grades and getting a scholarship. Because you can do that and come back home and have no soul or heart for the people. So, lisimena, and then you give up on the system and you leave. And I know that's pretty harsh for me to say that, but I think for those of us who are aware, let's be good guardians and be the ones who are able to have an influence in that direction. Don't force them. Aiono never forced me to learn Samoan, even in our own household. I was raised by her, but I only learned the richness of the language when she said, go back to school, get your education degree, and come and run the school. And that's when I realized. And it's a journey of self-realization like you went through, but if you didn't have skilled educators, would you have gotten there? If you didn't have someone who taught you the outset from the beginning, would you have realized that? No. And it's like that for a lot of us, sadly. And I think to influence on that platform, you've got a big platform too. But it's like, it's really important. Be the influencer where you are, to the aspect and the perspective.
Well, Leota, it's been an honor to have you grace us with your presence.
Took too much.
No, it's been a joy. I'm really looking forward to to reflecting further on tonight of all the things that you've shared with us. I think biggest thing that I wanted to share with our audience and remind us all of, let us be lifelong learners. Let us not stop learning when we graduate, but let's make it a goal that we learn something new every day, and let's be humble enough to be teachable too. So thank you for demonstrating that and role modeling that, Leota. We pray that the journey ahead for you and all your many, many different initiatives may go smoothly, may have God's hand of protection upon it. I pray that there would be favor over it, and I pray there would be much joy for the work too. And I guess that's a prayer of mine always, that for all of our educators out there, there would be ongoing joy as they teach and as they pour out onto our students. So thank you for joining us. Are there any last words you'd like to share?
I think you're doing an amazing job. It's our personalities. We're all different people, and we all bring something really special to the role of our tausala Samoa. So maloa Fakafetai, sure to my tausala. Tole to no. Fakafetai fu imolo lava pale mano unsa. It is me fengo fie. Ya oe malo mo so atau. Utemana oe fa se ata fengo fie. Te masalo a fai tulo alo umutu maleafi. Ia taulelea. A le mana na awile muse me e taule umu. Ia whaapito e lalo lau fai. A e wangi lau fai. So ulma kua whatau waa le meo lau fai. A e mana o e tau file a asa le afi. Tu ui lalo lau fai. Ia na tu ulo lali mea ilunga ile mu. Ele a fulu le wena upu mana ia. A fulu mu le sipiko e vela le sipiko. Ele upu masani ni whaonga lau tina. Lau tina Donna. Lau tua. E tau le mea na le lau tua. Lau tua le umu. E tu ule lau whai ngai me lau tina. So si mea whai. Lau tua le alofa. Po lea le a asai whea. Po lea le whaingatai whea. Po lea le whaingatai le asa mai on mele. Lau tua I le alofa. Ele lau tua le lau whai. Ai lau tua le alofa. Ia o lea le alofa. Le alofa si le tatu whaola. He took the heat for us. He was the lau whai. But you see how simple and easy the words are. Ma mea le tato material culture. Such simple things and yet so deep. Ia lau tua le alofa ia le amai ino nganuenga. Asa mai fo ia expectations for me. Lau tua le alofa le li. Ia papena wai tato uma. O na whaingatai le o langa. Lau tua le alofa ia le. Ia tato whainga malanga. Ia sao mauli ne tau sang. Ma wha mai ina fo ia. Ka moe mau tiu te. Isa mato tapuenga iso taimi. Ia, anwako se e popo ngā mui laron mako kamaningi o le amusa se e whetau i fo I meo loo. Ka tau wina ia nei tamaiti parpalala to muni vaimo la to tingi I matainga la pisi wane. Malo wharo lawa, a whetai mo le ganoa.
Aloha lawa.
Ia, tai lawa.
A big shout out to our sponsors and our partners. Thank you for your love and your support and supporting this vision that we've had with this project, namely the Australian High Commission. I'd also like to thank Samoa Tourism Authority, as well as Onomia Productions and Jandal Media. My outfit today is done by Sovai Creations, and my hair today is done by Yvette's Beauty and Hair Salon, as well as my face done by Boss Babes.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode.